Imagine losing everything in an instant, the familiar world dissolving around you like a mirage. In today's tumultuous world, where conflicts rage from distant lands to our own doorsteps, this isn't a far-fetched scenario. It's the harsh reality for millions. Families are uprooted, homes are reduced to rubble, and lives are irrevocably altered by the senseless violence of war. It is at such time, when we witness the shattering of lives around us, we ask ourselves, how does the human soul navigate the abyss of utter devastation? How does one rebuild when everything is gone, not only physical possessions, but also peace, security, and even hope? The gnawing emptiness in Yossi's stomach was a cruel echo of the hollowness in his chest. He'd stumbled into this remote village on the brink of collapse, a refugee from a conflict that had devoured his past and cast a dark shadow over his future. He was no soldier, but an engineering student, his mind filled with the intricate logic of computer code rather than the chaos of war. He had been months away from his graduation, a degree that was to open many doors for him when the world went dark. The battle, a relentless monster, had stolen his family, his studies, his sense of belonging, leaving him battered, bruised, and utterly alone. Each step he took was a reminder of the miles he had traveled and the distances that separated him from a life that once was, and a life that would perhaps never be again. Driven by a primal need for sustenance, he had sought shelter at a small, unassuming house on the village's edge, hoping for a morsel of food and a moment of respite from the relentless ache. A kind-faced priest, his eyes reflecting the weight of ages, answered his weary knock. He'd offered Yossi a meager meal, a cup of warm tea, and perhaps most crucially, a listening ear, an oasis of calm in the cacophony of his despair. Words, raw and anguished, tumbled from Yossi, each one a fragment of a life torn apart, a mournful tale of loss, fear, and the crushing weight of being utterly adrift in a world that seemed to have no place for him. The priest listened patiently, his silence a soothing balm to Yossi's fractured spirit. When the young man finally fell silent, exhausted by the sheer weight of his grief, the priest spoke, his voice a low, steady hum. "You remind me, my son," he began, his gaze holding an uncanny depth of understanding, "of another man who once found himself tossed about in a similar storm. His name was Zeno, and his story, well, it might just be the anchor your soul needs right now." He leaned in a bit, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. Zeno, a wealthy merchant from Cyprus, was sailing the seas in a time when the world wasn't as connected, but people still traveled across oceans. He was carrying goods to trade in different countries when, one day, a tragedy befell him near the coasts of Athens, a land where great philosophers have lived and taught. His ship was broken, the cargo was gone, the money was lost, he was left alone in a place which was not home. He was stranded in a foreign land with nothing but the clothes on his back, nothing but the broken pieces of his life. Now, many a man in that situation would crumble under the weight of his misfortune. Many would curse their fate, their God, the world, right? The priest paused, his gaze searching Yossi, but not Zeno. He didn't give up. He didn't allow despair to become his master. Instead, drawn by an inner impulse, he wandered into a bookshop, seeking some respite in the written words of other men. It was there he discovered the stories of Socrates, a philosopher who was always seeking truth. He was captivated by them, you see, and as his spirit was pulled towards the light of knowledge, he sought out the philosophers of the city and became their student. He absorbed their wisdom, their perspectives on navigating life with virtue and resolve. The priest leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. And that, my friend, is where Stoicism began. Yes, Stoicism, a philosophy born out of loss, crafted by a man who stood up when life knocked him down. Zeno realized at that moment that life is not what happens to you, but how you react to it, how you chose to engage with it, how you choose to see it. That is what will define your life. He paused, looking at Yossi, his expression thoughtful. The very word stoic comes from the stoa poikile, a beautiful, decorated walkway where Zeno and his students gathered for their profound discussions. They talked about things that still resonate with us even today. You've probably heard that we use stoic to describe someone who remains calm in crisis, never letting their emotions get the better of them. And while that's a part of it, the philosophy itself dives much deeper. The Stoics, you see, believed the universe operates according to a logos, a rational and interconnected order, like a grand web of cause and effect. We may not have power over the events that happen around us, but we absolutely have the power to choose our reactions to those events. Instead of dwelling on what should have been, they taught people to accept and embrace the world, to see it as it is, and to work with it. Zeno taught his students to strive towards 4 key virtues: practical wisdom, the ability to navigate life calmly and logically; temperance, self-control and moderation in all things; justice, which meant treating everyone with fairness and kindness; and courage, not only in big, decisive moments, but also in facing the everyday struggles with clarity and integrity. Seneca, a Roman Stoic, once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Isn't that profound? Life can be hard, Yossi, but you are stronger than you believe. Remember, to be stoic isn't to be an emotionless robot. It means to control your emotions, to see them as a force that you can use instead of being used by them. Stoicism doesn't mean being a loner in a cave, isolated from everyone. It means to improve yourself so that you can be a better member of your society. The priest continued, "You see, Stoicism even guides you to be kind and compassionate." Seneca, who lived in a time where slavery was widely accepted, still told people that they should treat slaves with kindness and respect. He said they were just like us. They were also humans. They shared the same humanity. It's about looking at everyone with compassion, no matter where they are from or what their background is. Stoicism is not a selfish philosophy. It is a philosophy that teaches you to become a positive force in the world. Look at Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome. He was a great leader and a devoted Stoic. During his reign, he guided his people through many brutal wars, dealt with the tragic deaths of many of his loved ones. Imagine the pain and the stress that must have been his constant companion. He persevered because of his dedication to Stoicism. Even centuries later, his writings offered hope and guidance to Nelson Mandela during his 27 years of imprisonment. When Mandela was finally released, he worked towards peace because he knew that even though you cannot change what has happened in the past, you can always strive to build a better future. All of this was influenced by the powerful teachings of Stoicism. The priest smiled, a kind and gentle expression on his aged face. Even though Stoicism, as an institution, is gone, its ideas are still alive, influencing millions of lives. Many Christian scholars, such as Thomas Aquinas, admired the philosophies and adopted the idea of virtue. You know how Buddhists aim for nirvana? Well, the Stoics sought ataraxia, a tranquility of the mind. There are a lot of similarities, a lot of common sense. He paused, his eyes twinkling with warmth. There was another Stoic called Epictetus who once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Isn't that beautiful? This powerful thought has found its place in modern psychology, rational emotive behavior therapy, and the renowned Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, which was inspired by the harrowing times he spent as a prisoner in a concentration camp. These practices also revolve around the Stoic principle that we can give our lives meaning, even in the darkest and most desperate of times. The priest looked at Yossi directly, his gaze holding both compassion and hope. You see, Yossi, your situation is not easy. You have been through immense suffering, but it's not the end of your story. Zeno, just like you, lost everything and still went on to create a powerful philosophy that has changed countless lives. You have the same choice now. Don't let despair chain you to the past. Choose to react to this experience. Choose to learn from it. Use it as an opportunity to build yourself up, even stronger than before. Remember the powerful words of the Stoics, he continued. Amor fati, love your fate, accept what is. And premeditatio malorum, the meditation on adversity, preparing yourself for what life might throw at you. Life, my son, is a precious gift, and even in this moment, when darkness surrounds you, you have the power to take charge, to find your courage, your wisdom, your justice, and your self-control. So, what do you think of Zeno's story? Does it offer you a bit of hope? Yossi looked down, his thoughts swirling. Slowly he nodded. It does. It really does. It's amazing how someone could turn such a terrible loss into something so powerful. Now, he said, standing up, I know of a factory manager in this village who is always looking for honest, hard-working people. I will speak to him. I believe he might have something for you. And so began a new chapter in Yossi's life. He started working in the village factory, immersing himself in his new reality. Armed with the wisdom of the Stoics, Yossi approached every challenge with courage, every interaction with justice, and each day with renewed purpose. He focused on learning new skills and refused to let the shadows of his past define him. While his history shaped who he was, Yossi chose to live fully in the present and work toward a future he could shape with his own hands. Yet, the story of Yossi, the refugee who found strength in the ancient teachings of Stoicism, doesn't end here. His journey remains a canvas, unfinished and full of possibilities. Perhaps he became a pillar of his community, inspiring others with his resilience. Maybe he returned to his homeland one day, using his newfound wisdom to rebuild and uplift those around him. Or could it be that he ventured into uncharted territory, merging his passion for technology with his understanding of human struggles, creating something remarkable, an invention, a movement, or even a technology of his own? Thank you for joining us on this journey through Yossi's story and the timeless teachings of Stoicism. If you found value in this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel to support more stories like this one. And we'd love to hear from you. What do you think happened to Yossi next? Or do you have questions or insights about Stoicism? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's learn and grow together. Until next time, stay resilient and stay curious.